Welcome to the deep dive. We take complex stuff, unpack it, and pull out the key bits for you. Today, we're jumping into the world of AV connectivity. It can get pretty tangled, right? We're focusing on one specific piece of gear designed to, well, sort of tame that chaos. It's the WolfPack 4K 30Hz 4x4 HDMI Matrix. Quite a mouthful. It also does video wall processing and seamless switching. Our info today, it comes straight from the product page for this device. Lots of tech specs in there. So our job is to cut through the jargon, really clarify what it does, why you might care, and how it could actually change the way you handle your screens and sound. You know, whether you're a home cinema buff, managing displays for a business, or even building a killer gaming setup.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating how much you can glean from just one product description, isn't it? It really shows you where things are heading with display tech. We'll break down the main functions, connect them to what that means to the person using it, and hopefully show how this stuff makes the whole experience, well, better.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start right at the beginning. Its core identity, a 4x4 HDMI Matrix Switcher. Now, for someone maybe wrestling with like a bunch of gadgets and screens, what does 4x4 actually mean day to day?
Right. So 4x4 is pretty straightforward, actually. It means you've got 4 HDMI inputs. Think Blu-ray player, maybe 2 game consoles, cable box. And then you have 4 HDMI outputs, so 4 screens, maybe TVs, projectors. And the Matrix lets you send any of those 4 sources to any of those 4 screens independently.
Okay, so console on TV 1, movie on TV 2 all at once.
Exactly. Total flexibility. This specific one, the WolfPack, part number 4x4 VW4, they call it a fixed matrix. And the price mentioned is $1,499.95, which, tells you is probably aimed more at serious home setups or commercial use, not just casual plug-and-play thing.
Yeah, that price point definitely suggests something more robust. Makes sense. So it's about routing control. But it does more than just send signals around, right? It lists some big features. Let's talk about 4K at 30 Hz resolution. We all kind of get 4K means sharp pictures. But what about that 30 Hz part? Is that good? Bad? What's the real visual quality we're talking about here?
That's a really good question, because 30 Hz sometimes makes people pause, especially gamers. On the input side, it takes Ultra HD, 3840 by 2160 pixels at 30 frames per second. Now, for movies, broadcast TV, lots of professional stuff, 30 Hz is perfectly fine, often standard, actually. You don't really need more for that kind of content.
Okay.
High frame rate gaming is where you'd want 60 Hz or higher, sure, but this isn't primarily for that super twitchy gaming scenario. And on the output, it's really flexible. It can output that 4K at 30 Hz, but crucially, it can also scale the output down. Yeah, so if you have an older 1080p display or maybe a 720p projector, it can intelligently adjust the signal to match 1080p, 720p, even odd ones like 1366 by 768 at 60 Hz. That scaling is super important for compatibility.
Yeah.
Avoids those black screens you get when devices don't handshake properly.
Gotcha. So make sure you get the best picture your display can handle.
Exactly. And it supports good color, too. 8, 10, 12-bit depth, YCBCR, RGB color spaces. So the colors should be rich and accurate.
Okay, that clears up the resolution part. Now, I'm really interested in this seamless switching. The description says, no black-blue screen during the sources switch. Why is that such a big deal? What's the actual user benefit?
Oh, it's huge, especially in certain situations. Think about giving a presentation, right? You switch from your laptop to maybe a video clip, that half-second black screen. It's jarring. It looks unprofessional. Or imagine a security monitoring setup. You can't afford those gaps.
Sure.
Even at home. Switching from your PlayStation to your Apple TV, that flash is just annoying. Seamless switching makes the transition smooth, instant. It just feels more premium, more responsive. It elevates the whole experience, honestly. No more clunky interruptions.
Right. It removes that little bit of friction that reminds you of the tech behind it. Makes sense. And sticking with visuals, video wall processing, that sounds impressive. We see those giant screen setups in like malls or control rooms. How does this box make, say, 4 normal TVs act like one giant screen?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So basically, it takes one single video source, and it cleverly splits that image up and sends the correct portion to each screen in your video wall setup.
Yep.
Let's say you have a 2x2 wall, 4 screens total.
Okay.
Screen 1 gets the top left quarter, screen 2 the top right, and so on. All perfectly synchronized. But the really clever bit is the bezel correction.
Bezel correction. What's that?
So every display has a frame, right?
Okay.
The bezel. If you just put the image quarters side by side, those frames would create black lines cutting through the picture. It would look weird.
All right.
Bezel correction compensates for that physical gap. It adjusts the image slightly so that visually it flows across the bezels, making the whole thing look like one continuous picture. It's vital for making video walls look natural and not just like a bunch of screens stuck together. Really important for digital signage, command centers, that sort of thing. Or just an epic gaming room.
Okay, so it's making the multi-screen setup look intended, not accidental. Very cool. And it's not just pictures, is it? Audio's in here too. It says 3.5 millimeter audio, embedded and de-embedded. What kind of audio quality and formats are we talking? It mentions Dolby True HD and DTS HD, but then says only supports 2.1 for those. What does that mean?
Right, so it handles audio quite flexibly. You can embed audio onto the HDMI signal or de-embed it, pull it off to send to a separate sound system via that 3.5 millimeter jack. It supports standard PCM 2.1 channel, which is your basic stereo plus subwoofer signal. It also understands the formats like Dolby Digital, Dolby True HD, DTS HD. These are often multi-channel surround sound formats.
So the 2.1 part?
Yeah, the caveat means that while it can receive those high-quality True HD or DTS HD streams, it will downmix them to a 2.1 channel output through its own audio ports.
Okay, so you don't get the full 5.1 or 7.1 surround directly from the Matrix's 3.5 millimeter jack if the source is True HD or DTS HD.
Correct. For many setups, maybe using TV speakers or a soundbar, 2.1 is perfectly adequate. If you need full surround from those formats, you typically handle that downstream with an AV receiver getting the HDMI signal directly. But in terms of basic quality, the specs are good. Sampling rates up to 192 kilohertz, bit depth up to 24-bit. So the audio it does pass through or de-embed should be clear and detailed.
Got it. That clarifies the audio side. Okay, let's shift to managing this thing. Smart EDID management. First off, what on earth is EDID, and why does the smart management part matter here? What problems does it actually solve?
Oh yeah, EDID, Extended Display Identification Data. It's basically how your display tells your source device what it can handle. Like your TV says to your Blu-ray player, hey, I'm a 4K TV, I support HDR, I run at 60 Hz. ED is that little handshake message. Now, smart management becomes crucial when you have multiple sources and multiple displays, all with potentially different capabilities. Things can be confused. This matrix has built-in ED profiles for common setups. But the really smart part is that it can learn or copy the ED from one of your specific displays.
Why would you want to do that?
Well, maybe you want to force a source to output a specific resolution that it's not automatically choosing. Or you have a tricky compatibility issue. Copying the ED from the display that works best can solve those handshake problems. It prevents those frustrating no-signal screens or getting stuck in a low resolution because the devices aren't communicating perfectly. It's about ensuring maximum compatibility and performance.
Ah, so it's like being able to manually mediate the conversation between devices.
Louder.
And actually controlling the box. Wow, lots of options. IR remote, push buttons, WBGUI, TCP/IP, RS-232. That seems like a huge range. How does that flexibility help different kinds of users? Like me in my living room versus, say, a business installing this?
That range is definitely a major strength. It makes it super adaptable. For, a typical home user, the simple IR remote is probably fine. Or the push buttons on the front panel, they mentioned they have a blue backlight, which is a nice touch, easy to see, quick to use.
Right.
But then you get into more complex setups. The WBGUI graphical user interface lets you control it from a computer on the same network. Just open a web browser. That's handy for setup and management. And the TCP/IP via the LAN port and the RS-232 serial port. That's for the pros.
How so?
That allows integration with dedicated control systems. Think Crestron, Control4, Savant, the kind of systems used in smart homes, boardrooms, bars, restaurants.
Yeah.
It means this matrix can become part of a larger automated environment, controlled from a touch panel or even program sequences. So it scales from super simple to really quite complex control scenarios.
Incredible flexibility there.
Yeah.
And it mentions supporting up to 20 scenes. That sounds useful. What exactly is a scene in this context?
Yeah, scenes are fantastic.
Yeah.
Huge time saver. Basically, you can set up a specific configuration like input 1 going to output 3, input 2 going to outputs 1 and 4, maybe with a specific video wall layout active.
Yeah.
And you can save that entire configuration as a scene, like a preset.
Yeah.
This matrix can store up to 20 of them.
So instead of manually switching everything each time.
Exactly. You just recall scene 1 for movie night, scene 2 for game day, scene 3 for your work presentation setup. One command brings back that whole configuration instantly. It makes switching between complex setups really effortless. They also mention an optional DirecTV control system, but you'd have to call them about that specifically.
20 presets is quite a lot. That really takes the hassle out of managing multiple sources and screens.
Okay, what about just general compatibility? It lists Blu-ray players, set-top boxes, consoles. Is there anything special about the ports themselves, particularly for copy-protected stuff?
Yep, broad compatibility is key. And for protected content, the crucial thing is HDCP compliance.
High bandwidth digital content protection. It's the encryption used on HDMI signals for things like Blu-rays, streaming services, even some games, to prevent unauthorized copying. This matrix supports HDCP 1.4 on all its ports. Without that, you just get a black screen or an error message when trying to watch protected stuff. So yes, it's designed to work with modern protected content sources. And as we mentioned, the LAN port is there for that TCP/IP network control.
Good to know it handles the protection side. All right, just briefly, the physical stuff. About 44 centimeters wide, 21 deep, standard rack height, roughly, weighs 3 kilograms, uses a 24V power adapter, consumes 20 W. Anything notable about where it can operate or any compliance stuff?
The specs seem pretty standard for this kind of gear. Operating temps 0 to 50 Celsius, humidity 20 to 90%, so typical indoor environments are fine. It seems built solidly. One interesting note is the TAA compliance.
Yeah.
TAA is the Trade Agreements Act.
What does that mean?
It basically means the product is manufactured or substantially transformed in the U.S. or a designated country. It's often a requirement for U.S. government purchasing and some specific commercial contracts. So that widens its potential market.
Okay, interesting detail. Lastly, let's connect the box to the brand. It's a WolfPack product. And WolfPack is a trademark of a company called HDTV Supply, Inc. What does the source material tell us about them? Does that background matter?
I think it does, yeah. Knowing who makes it adds context. WolfPack is their brand. HDTV Supply, Inc., the company behind it, has apparently been certified since 2003, so they've been around for a while, over 20 years in the business. That suggests experience. They're also listed as an HDBaseT.org approved adopter. HDBaseT is a standard for sending AV signals over long distances using network cables. So being involved there shows they're engaged with current tech.
Okay.
And probably the most direct feedback indicator is the mention that they're rated an exceptional top quality store rated by Google Shopping. Yeah, that kind of rating usually reflects good customer service and product satisfaction. So it suggests you're not just buying hardware, but buying from a company with a decent track record.
Right. Provides a bit of confidence.
So if we sort of pull all this together, what we've really unpacked is how one device, this HDMI Matrix, can act as a central brain for potentially quite complicated AV setups. It's taking multiple sources, multiple destinations, advanced features like video walls, and making it manageable, offering powerful functions, but also different ways to control it all.
Exactly. We've seen how things like 4K support, even at 30 hertz, combined with that scaling function, and the seamless switching, getting rid of those black screens, plus the really clever video wall processing with bezel correction. These aren't just lines on a spec sheet. They fundamentally change how smooth and professional and, well, good your system feels and looks, whether it's for work displays, a serious home cinema, or, yeah, even a crazy multi-screen gaming rig.
Yeah, it bridges the gap between complex potential and actual usability.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening? I mean, picture having that power, effortlessly switching sources, maybe controlling a video wall, calling up one of 20 safe setups instantly. It turns what could be a real headache into something smooth and dynamic. And maybe it prompts a broader question. Thinking beyond just AV setups, where else in your life could having a smart, centralized way to manage lots of different inputs and outputs actually simplify things and just make the whole experience better?